Hello everybody, welcome to my presentation. My name is Juan Carlos Castillo. I am currently a postdoctoral research fellow at the Department of Science and Technology Policy at the University of Campinas here in Brazil. And I would like to present this proposed work plan that I prepared as a candidate for a visiting professorship position at the Federal University of ABC here also in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So let us start. First of all, I would like to give you a general overview of my research project, which relates to my main academic interest and a little bit of my background. I am mostly interested in analyzing the economics of technological change and innovation policy, which relates to trending issues such as social innovation, green innovation, the adoption of intellectual property protection on the service sector, energy efficiency, and other things like that. However, my key selling point, my key area of expertise is microeconomics. I mostly focus on firm level information that I rely from two key data sources, which are industrial and innovation service. I have analyzed three countries in Latin America, which are Chile, Colombia, and Brazil. And so my project aims to continue working along the lines of these three interesting case studies. So given that I produce the work plan that I just submitted, and here I divided into three general areas. The first one relates to more details about the proposed working papers that I aim to continue working on. Some of them are already, all of them are in the early stage. Some of them I have tried to run some regressions. So this is the work that I would like to continue executing. The second part relates to some of the output that I have already produced while being a postdoc here in Campinas and that I have already submitted to some journals and that I have received like revised and resubmit decisions in order to finalize the publication of this article. And finally, the last part indicates the links between this proposed work plan and the general and pedagogic research agenda from the University of ABC. So let's start. First of all, I propose conducting 6 articles during the time frame that I have been assigned, that I could be assigned for the position. The first one relates to the adoption of intellectual property protection instruments at the service sector. The other relates to strategies of green and social innovation. The third one relates to an impact evaluation assessment about the effectiveness of an innovation program here in Brazil, which is called FINEPI. Another one relates to economic growth and innovations nexus to evaluate the extent of this link. This is mostly at the regional level for the case of Brazil. And the other ones that are ideas that I still would like to develop are related to determinants of biotech investment and energy efficiency, both of them utilizing available information on the one hand for Brazil and for the other one for Colombia. So basically, well, the first one is an examination of why firms in the service sector may be reluctant to adopt instruments of intellectual property protection. As we know, this legal framework that encompasses these instruments includes 6 types, which are patents, trademarks, copyrights, utility models, and design registration. The issue here that we see is that firms in the service sectors are kind of reluctant to adopt these kind of instruments because what they say is that they cannot really protect their output that they generate because the service, the invented apple of the service sector is intangible. There is a lot of difficulties to exclude imitators from the inventive processes. And therefore, firms in the service sector tend to rely on other informal instruments verbal agreements and so forth that are not necessarily seen at innovation service. So what I try to do is to do it and to analyze this utilizing likelihood to adopt either instrument of intellectual property protection, and here I utilize an econometric technique which is called a multivariate probability analysis, which simultaneously assess the likelihood to adopt this type of instruments. One important thing is that my research aims to focus not only on innovators but also on potential innovators. Why? Because this is so that we can correct for sample selection biases, in the sense that you are considering actual firms that are conducting inventive activity, but also those that are struggling, but that is still there somehow. And this includes firms that reporting following either innovation strategy, whether it has been technological or non-technological innovation, and also some other firms that had ongoing innovation projects, or others that have applied for at least one instrument. No? So either firms that do not meet these criteria are dropped. This is a methodology that has been present when you study innovation service, specifically for the case of innovation barriers. So I'm bringing this into the study of IPR. So the case study here will be the Chilean Innovation Service, which is data that is publicly available, and then here I relied on one of the latest versions of this data set that goes from 2017 and 2018. I just see that they have more recent data, so my aim will be to update this information and hopefully get interesting results. The next part relates to the transition to a greener economy, like to a more environmentally friendly economy. So here I devote particular attention to green and social innovation activities. Eco-innovation, first of all, relates to the attempts that they make firms to pollute less, to protect natural assets. Here we can have different types of green-oriented projects, such as reductions in the consumption of energy, reductions in the consumption of water, how the firm becomes more aware of the environmental damage that they are making. And well, so there is a lot of literature analyzing determinants of this. However, like, we are facing not only the green transition but also the fair transition, right? So it's also interesting to include to plug into the equation other factors that might also be driven green innovation. So therefore I try to include something that is called social innovation. No? Here we can account for factors such as inclusive business models, social entrepreneurship, corporate social responsibility. So this is interesting because this is, again, I am relying on data from Chile, which has this kind of information. And here, like, the econometric strategy will be an ordinal logistic regression. Why? Because firms there in such data set, they are asked to attach the relevance given to any activity related to the innovation. They are asked to score 1 if they attach null relevance, and 4 if they attach high relevance to the reduction in the consumption of waters, in the consumption of energy, if the relevance they attach to being environmentally sensitive, and so forth, right? So in Chile is again here an interesting case study. It's one of the standards in terms of innovation in Latin America, one of the Latin American leaders at the respect, but also it's also placed in a good position for the transition to cleaner energies. It has biodiversity, it has reserves of lithium and copper, so it's a very interesting country also to analyze, in the sense that they have been also supporting their entrepreneurs. So let's see if this case study yields interesting results for the literature, in the sense that whether social innovation, firms that are socially oriented can also become environmentally oriented. The next part is like assessing the effectiveness of innovation support programs. Here in Unicampi, I managed to access data that was collected for a project for FINEPI. So here, like, the researchers in Campinas, and we were interested in analyzing what has been the effectiveness of this public support for innovation, in the sense that these firms we are analyzing firms that access non-reversible funds versus those that did not access. Both of them apply for the program, but here our interest is to check whether those that access this support for innovation perform better. So here, like, the standard impact evaluation technique that we can utilize is something called propensity score matching. And here we evaluate like different areas of performance, which is not only related to total sales, whether they were able to hire more people for the R&D department, whether they include whether they increase their income after taxes. Another interesting part also, whether they were able to produce for international markets, and if they have like if they report the production of more patents. No, so again, the case is the FINEPI, which is the firm level data set, and it relates to the funding authority here in Brazil. So the next part relates to the economic growth innovation census. Here, like, there are widespread analysis analyzing this trend, and basically, like, even though this has been conducted for several countries, we see that the results are not necessarily crystal clear. They are ambiguous in the sense that some scholars claim that the economic growth innovation is quite straightforward, that it's positive, that it's strong. However, for other cases, like in emerging economies, they claim that this is not necessarily the case. So therefore, we try to see where this is coming from, and it's also a matter of analyzing different case studies, but also in terms of the different innovation indicators that you're utilizing, because you can utilize R&D expenditures, you can use patent data, trademarks. You also need to account for within country variation. What about the role of different or different regions in a country? What about the role of newer indicators? So therefore, here with colleagues also at the University of Campinas, we built a municipality data set that includes information on economic growth. Here we are focusing on the productivity, the gross value added to labor ratio. And here, we try to link it to other important indicators, which is also, as the literature would suggest, we are utilizing patenting data. But we also try to include other innovation-related indicators, such as journal publications, focusing on the address of the inventor. So here we aim to shed some light and additional insights, whether this part of utilizing alternative indicators might explain a little bit more this economic growth innovation nexus. The other papers that I am planning to conduct relates to micro-level determinants of biotech investment in Brazil. I have seen that the data for Pinteki and PIA at the budget that I have had access before to this have this information, so I would like to further elaborate on the determinants for such a big country like Brazil. And also I would like to examine whether R&D investment innovation expenditures also relate to energy efficiency. This would be for the case of Colombia. Now here I also have access to the Innovation and Industrial Survey, so I am planning to conduct to utilize different indicators of energy efficiency through a production function, utilizing common microeconometric techniques such as the stochastic frontier analysis. So basically, well, those are the general papers that I have in mind that I would like to continue working as part of my research project. For the time being, I have submitted two additional manuscripts to journals. I have obtained revised and resubmit decision. One is also on eco-innovation, but this is only focused on the determinants of eco-innovation and for other country, which is Colombia. I submitted to Economics of Innovation and New Technology, and I received comments, and I have a submission deadline by May 2026. Another part is that I'm also focusing on the digital part, like digital technologies, in this case proxy by ICT investment, how this influence firm level innovation, and yet again for the case of Colombia. I submitted this to Innovation and Development by June 2025. A few weeks ago I received a revised decision, and now I have a new submission deadline for 2026. So February at the beginning of the year. No? So these are the papers that I would like to continue working on. And finally, the last part would be how my research links to the general research and pedagogic agenda of UFABC, and also to the part of common trends in my topics. So as you can see, I am trying to analyze the transition to a more sustainable economy, green innovation, energy efficiency. These are pressing issues because, for instance, for Brazil, a country wants to grow more, to improve the productivity, but also to pollute less. Growing without damaging the environment, which is something that has been going on even during these weeks during the COP, the reunion, the gathering that is taking place now in Belém, here in Brazil. So I am focusing on these kind of issues, which I find highly relevant for the transition to a more sustainable economy. And I'm also focusing on the digital part, how this is connected to innovation, science and technology policies. Something important is that now I'm also moving not only the case of firms, but it's also interesting to analyze regions, micro regions, which also is the common evident necessary step to continue specializing on from my research. And the last part, well, I mean, there is how my agenda fits the part the general agenda of UFABC. Well, you have like this call for microeconometrics and contemporary challenges in Brazil. I guess that I fulfill those two areas. I am both well versed in econometrics, in microeconometrics, and also in microeconomics. Given my focus on firm level analysis, and also, I mean, I understand so far, I have a clear understanding of the challenges that Brazil is facing right now. So this would mean that I could be a suitable candidate for the Bachelorado in Ciencias Económicas, like the different subjects that are being taught there, like which relates to economía del conocimiento, economía del desenvolvimiento, microeconomía sociales de innovación. It's not only the Bachelorado, but also the Postgraduação. So this would also help me. I guess that my profile also suits what you're looking for because I follow an interdisciplinary approach, because it's also the part of green innovation. It's also the part of science and technology, digitalization. It's the case of firms. It's the case of regions. It's also the strong emphasis that I have on giving adequate policy advice. So this could be the reasons that why my project is linked to the project of UFABC, and this has been my research project, and I thank you for the opportunity and for staying here with me listening to my project. Thank you.